On this week's episode of Circles Off, it's another Q&A episode. You have questions, we have answers. We're going to dive into a bunch of topics, all that and more. This week's episode of Circles Off starts now.
Come on, let's go!
Welcome to Circles Off, episode number 96. You're on the Circles Off YouTube channel, part of the Hammer Betting Network. Rob Pizzola, joined as always by Johnny from Betstamp.
Episode number 96. Who do we have today, Rob?
So, Mikko Rantanen in the NHL wears 96 right now. I'd argue he's probably the most underrated player in the entire league.
Wasn't he a top 3 pick?
Barkov?
He's a top 3 pick.
He is. He's let's say like he's not viewed in the same light as Nathan McKinnon for the Avalanche.
Is he as good?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
He's a big bomb banger.
My favorite 96 jersey, the old Vancouver Canucks.
Oh, beauty.
Black, orange, red, yellow. Pavel Bure, 96.
Pavel Bure wore it for a few years, for sure. I don't know how this happens all the time, but every single time I look up an NBA jerseys, number 96, did Meta World Peace change his jersey like every single year?
Was he 96?
Houston, he's the only NBA player ever to wear 96. I think he might have just
probably did it on purpose. Like,
honestly,
yeah.
He might have done that. Meta World Peace for the Houston Rockets in 2009.
Number 96.
Or 96.
Did not know that.
It's not a popular number. Once you get into these higher 90s, it seems like it's more niche.
More niche. Fair enough. Today is our question and answer episode. But before that, Rob has a quick announcement here. March Madness is officially over. We did a bracket challenge. We said we were going to toss out some merch. Rob, how did we do?
Well, I did okay. I actually thought I was going to be... The people that are following Circles Off here did a really good job with these brackets. I finished in the 90th percentile with the bracket that I filled out, and I finished in 29th in the pool that we put on. Our top hammer creators, if this isn't a plug for Hit the Books on the Hammer Betting Network, I don't know what is. Brad Powers had a 97th percentile bracket. John Fendler, who we had on Circles Off a couple months back, 94th percentile bracket. Pretty glowing endorsement for Hit the Books. But 3 people that entered had UConn winning it all. All of you are eligible for some BetStamp swag as promised. So all you got to do is hit us up on Twitter, Circles Off HQ. Hit the DMs. We'll get your information. We'll send you out the swag. But credit to this guy who finished in first. Jacko's Hammer Bracket. 1,170 points. 99.9th percentile.
Where did he rank amongst all ESPN?
I don't know. I can't see like the full leaderboard because I didn't enter myself.
Click. Where can we see that potentially, Zach, on here? Leaderboard,
Just leaderboard, maybe.
So he got 170 hit leaderboard?
Like that is absurdly good.
Oh, there was a guy who got 1,600.
I don't know exactly how the scoring system works.
Okay, so there is a 100th percentile here.
Yes.
Which doesn't really exist in real life, but
yeah, it's a little bit weird how they did that, but
Oh my God.
regardless, well, there's so many entries.
So many entries.
It's like an
here,
absurd amount of entries.
Yeah.
So Jacko's Hammer Bracket, number 1. Vinny Chase, number 2, 99.6th percentile. What a loser.
Dog. Vinny Chase, great name also. Great character.
And then Chachi goes left, 99.4th percentile. I don't know what that's in reference to.
Congrats to all the winners.
Or something. Yeah.
We got to give Pizzola a pat on the back here, as well as myself a little bit, in our March Madness preview episode. All right. Now, would we be mentioning this if they didn't win the tournament? Absolutely not.
I didn't even remember this, by the way. We were discussing this off air before we started, so I don't even know if this is true.
One of the pieces of advice that we did give out, you can look back to the episode, was you want to pick if you're in a big enough bracket style. You know, if you're in a bracket that's got, 100 to 500,000 people, you want to take a team that is not a number 1 seed. But in theory, you don't want a team that can't win the tournament as a low likelihood. So what we actually touted was a good value for this year would be a team like a UConn that's a 4 seed, meaning a lot of recreational people may not pick them to win. So they're a 4 seed. However, they were priced a little bit higher than that.
Yep.
How did we know that? How did we know they were priced higher? We took a look at Pinnacle Sportsbook.
Pinnacle, the world's sharpest sportsbook, now available to bettors in Ontario. Find out what professional bettors have known for decades. Pinnacle is where the best bettors play. You must be 19 plus, not available to U.S. residents. And of course, as always, don't forget about this. Please gamble responsibly. But we did look at the Pinnacle odds. I mean, listen, when people are like, I want to be contrarian in sports betting, a lot of times, they don't really even know what that means. Like, people think being contrarian is, let me look up the public bet percentages on this website and fade the public. There's ways to be contrarian in a smart manner where you can gain an edge. Now, of course, I'm the idiot that picked Alabama in my bracket to go far instead of UConn. I figured after I touted it on the show, a lot of people were gonna go UConn, and I had to get off it. But there are ways to be contrarian in sports betting. Today's a Q&A episode. We haven't done one in a long time. For those who want to ask questions in the future, we always send out a tweet on Twitter. Make sure you're following us at circlesoffhq on Twitter. We also post it to the community page on our YouTube channel as well. If you're subscribed, you'll see it in your feed. You can ask us questions. And if you're not subscribed right now, I don't know what the hell you're doing. It's been 96 episodes. Hit the subscribe button. If you like the content, hit the like button. That allows us to keep doing these episodes over and over and over. I know Real Frank Costanza out there, you're not subscribed, but you listen every week. Thank you for the support, but just hit the subscribe button. You don't have to be an ass and like this tough guy on the outside. You can just hit the subscribe and support us.
So I'm going to run through the questions as we normally do. As always, if you have a question, you don't have to wait till the Q&A episodes. You can just send it in any time. And also, we got a lot of amazing guest suggestions last time. Guest suggestions. And we're actually working on and I've locked down a couple interesting guests over the next couple of weeks. So we appreciate those suggestions. Keep them coming. Barry Horse episode that we released. Unbelievable feedback. Thank you, everybody, for your support and listening. And there's going to be plenty more where those come from. Starting off the Q&A, we got the Rob section, which always is a typical favorite. A lot of people ask a lot of questions. They want to know about Rob's life. Number one, we'll start off on the lighter note. I've ordered these, hopefully in a sequential order that makes sense. In one interview, Rob said that he had to work for a mob bookie because he owed them a lot. Did they strongly imply that his fingers may be broken if he doesn't work there? Did he work there still after his debt was paid off?
Okay, so first of all, the definition of like owing them a lot changes over time. Because when I was young, I couldn't pay off $800 because I was a teenager. I was like grade 11, high school. I worked a minimum wage job, commission at Sport Check. I had bills, credit card debt, stuff like that. So $800, like that's the perspective of that. But essentially what I did.
Wait, is that how much you owed? $800?
I literally owed $800.
You couldn't make that back from Sport Check?
Yeah, I could have. It would have taken me a while, but like I had
3
other
weeks.
debts too.
For the U.S. listeners, Sport Check is a
retail
Dick's Sporting Goods equivalent.
Yeah, exactly. I had a blast working at Sport Check, but remember, like back at that minimum wage at that time was like $8, something like that. I was maybe making $10 an hour, and I wasn't working a ton of hours. And it's not like I could just go and be like, "Oh, schedule me for 40." I was a part-time employee. I was in school. So what I did is the classic move that I'm not proud of. I totally hate this nowadays, but I just stopped answering phone calls and texts and dodging the guy that I owed money to. And months went by, and unfortunately, he saw my car parked at a buddy's house in the neighborhood that was near him. And we were playing poker in the garage. Somebody just strolled up behind me, tapped me on the shoulder, and he's like, "Hey, been trying to get a hold of you. You want to go have a chat?" And I was like, "Okay, let's go have a chat or whatever." And listen, I mean, I'm like a 16, 17-year-old kid. Really, the guy I'm dealing with is like 22, 23. But when you're dealing with someone that's your elder, you're scared. Like, I owe money to these guys. I don't know what's going on. And the agreement that we made was that I was just going to be a runner. I was going to do collections for the book until I could pay off my debt. So that's essentially what happened. Wasn't super. It's not like this threatening story of like, oh, I went down into like the basement of some area and there was like a guy cracking his knuckles and like, no, it was just like I couldn't pay a debt. They expected the money. They're not going to let me off the hook for $800, whatever. Sure. Honestly, good life experience. I don't suggest everybody go out and try to lose money and gamble responsibly, like I mentioned earlier, but it teaches you a lot of things about the industry, how things run when you're an agent, and you can like log into accounts and see what's going on and like very clearly identify, oh, this guy's losing all the time and he's parlaying all these games. You start to like learn like what not to do about certain tendencies. So whatever, was shameful point in my life. Thank you to whoever asked this question. I always love reliving these moments. My current wife paid off my $800 debt. She was my girlfriend at the time.
Wow.
Quickly. And then I worked the rest of it afterwards. I'm like, oh, I can make some money running here. And then did that for like 1 or 2 years. My life story is
okay.
It's dark.
Interesting stuff. I already knew that story, but we're glad to have answered that on the air. So it seems like his fingers were not in jeopardy.
No,
chopped off.
Listen, if I didn't pay this, nothing was like in hindsight. Literally nothing
would have.
It was
only $800. I mean, potentially the listeners thought it was a lot more.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like for me, I'm dead serious. Like here, like I'm gonna get the comments. Oh, like Rob Pizzola is a poor or whatever, and this and that. Like I would never ever go to my parents for that type of money because I'd be totally ashamed to do that. Like it's just like one of those tail.
We'll give it to you, but then you'll be in more trouble anyways.
It's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not worth it for that type of thing. And I grew up, my father did well for himself as like someone who had parents that immigrated to Canada with nothing, like quite literally nothing, and had to work like real hard labor jobs, both my grandparents. My father became an accountant, did really well to like I had a good upbringing. Let's put it that way, right? But I wasn't a spoiled kid. Like he really taught me the value of certain things, right? And I wouldn't go to him in a jam like that because I just wanted to I had to deal with that. Like I always knew that I would have to deal with that. Like, of course, if I went to my parents, they would pay off $800 or whatever. But it was like, no, they were like, wanted me to learn the ropes for myself through experience, got into some trouble. It worked out okay, figured it out. But I wouldn't trade any of my life experiences for anything, really.
And that's how he met his wife. So it was all. All right. Up next. What's up, Rob?
Oh, here we go. What starts with what's up, Rob?
What's up, Rob? You mentioned in a previous episode that you used to be a successful MLB bettor, but lost your edge. How did it come to that realization? Did the market stop respecting that action, or was it based on your results over a large sample size? Genuinely intrigued. Thanks, Rob. You're a big inspiration to me as a bettor. No, I made that last part up.
Everyone who's watching on YouTube can see on the screen.
All right, go ahead.
Yeah, so it was mostly based on results over a larger sample size. So I think part of it was maybe arrogance at first. Like when I go back and I look at my previous tweets, my life, the way I carried myself, even 6 or 7 years ago, it's almost embarrassing. I think a lot of people feel this way about themselves in general, where you think you know it all and you don't. It wasn't really, as dumb as this sounds, I don't think it was really that hard to beat MLB when I was beating MLB. It wasn't
the old Fangraph steamer zips.
Yeah, it wasn't a super competitive market. Like if you had a decent math background and some understanding of baseball and some understanding of the market, you could have success. And I surrounded myself with some very smart people who taught me a lot about things. Seville guys won't like that I say this, rest in peace to Grooven, but I used to chat with him pretty much every day and learned a ton from him. There was another guy on Twitter that I had a falling out with that went by Dale Doback on Twitter, who I had a good relationship with. We used to chat baseball every day, and you just learn from these people. But at the end of the day, over time, you have to be real with yourself and results. And a year went by and just not winning anymore, not getting the closing line value that I once was. And at that point, you have like this self-reflection moment of, do I continue to do this? There's this, skepticism, this lack of confidence, or like, do I really have it in myself to put in the time that it's going to take to overcome this, right? Build out my own projection set that I think is super strong. And frankly, I just didn't have it in me to do the latter. So I think it's a combo of these things. Like when he says that the market stopped respecting that action, I was getting less closing line value for sure. And was it based on results? Absolutely. Like the last season that I bet baseball, seriously, I lost money over the duration of the entire season.
You just had to call it a day.
I mean, some people would continue going, right? I know of people that bet professionally and they'll have a losing baseball season and they'll just chalk it up to variance or be like, we didn't account for the ball in the first month and a half of the year. We had some really bad results coming out of the hole, whatever. But I'm a realist. I don't like losing money. I like winning money. And if I'm not confident in what I'm doing, then I'm not going to go down that path anymore.
Well, there's something else with baseball too, given that it's like, dead heat of the summer. If you are actually grinding baseball every single day, which is a true grind, and you're on every single day, and then you lose money at the end of the season, it's hard to get back next year on baseball.
100%.
Given like you are quite literally, like when you're gambling, trying to earn money, working a job that you don't get paid for unless you get the results. And if you work an entire summer, think about how pissed you'd be if you work an entire summer, you lost money. Could have enjoyed the summer. No, couldn't. Worked the whole time, grinded every day. At the end, not only did you not get paid, but you had negative money in your bank account.
So in my opinion, I won at baseball for several years. There was like an email group I used to send out baseball picks to as well of people that just tail the action or whatever. I was a small timer at that point, like betting a few $1,000, but nothing, serious per game. But in baseball, this will sound odd. Some might disagree. This is just my own personal perspective. There's really like 20 pitchers over the course of a year that are going to make or break your season, where I think you're going to have a different opinion on this subset of like 20 guys, let's say, might be even less than that, 15 to 20 guys, where you're like, no, this guy is way better than the market gives him credit for, or this guy is way worse. And there's some seasons that go by and you're like, haha, like laughing it up, right? You're like, no, this guy's, Marco Estrada used to pitch for the Blue Jays, right? Marco Estrada, when he had these seasons where he had really low ERAs, his peripheral metrics were bad. FIP, everything Barry Horse talked about, FIP, XFIP, Sierra. He's not a strikeout guy, but he induced a ton of weak contact. And when you're watching Blue Jays games, at least I was watching a ton, it's like, this guy's never going to get lit up because he has a really good changeup that works down and away, and all this contact is soft contact. But all the projection systems that are in the public marketplace all hate Marco Estrada because, he doesn't miss bats. He's not going to strike guys out, putting the ball in play. He's getting lucky. Well, I took the opinion that he wasn't getting lucky. I bet him for like an entire season and made a killing off of his starts. So you get to that point. But then what happens when you start losing on those opinions? You completely lose your confidence. You don't know if it's variance or not. Betting is so much more. Like when you're originating, and there's tons of approaches to betting, obviously, there is a legitimate confidence factor that for me personally, I can struggle with at times. And with baseball, it did get to the point of maybe I still did have an edge, but I didn't feel like I did, or wasn't comfortable enough to bet that amount of money.
Or it wasn't enough to overcome the work that you'd put in, and it wouldn't have been worth it.
Because, I mean, my partners were encouraging me to keep going at that time. They're like, no, this stuff's good. We got unlucky last year. I didn't feel like it.
Yeah, fair enough. Why did you not push back as much on Barry Horse as you would have if Fezzik said the same thing re-markets?
Oh.
Is the bell curve meme... Is it the bell curve meme in real life? Okay, sorry. So the bell curve meme, I was just trying to figure out what he meant by that, is that meme that says, CLV doesn't matter, I'll beat the market, and that's at the lowest level of IQ, and then at the highest level of IQ, it's the same thing, and in the middle, everyone cares about CLV.
Yes.
So, yeah, I guess, you call it what you want. I wouldn't necessarily think that Fezzik is at the lower IQ. Probably he's on the other end of the spectrum. He's actually really good with numbers and mathematics. Better than me for sure, and better than probably almost all the listeners. So wouldn't say it's that at all in terms of Fezzik, by the way. Not that I'm trying to defend his process or anything like that, but the main thing here is with Barry Horse in the market, we wanted to have a good conversation. I don't think we had so much to get to that I don't necessarily think that, it was worth the time to spend basically being like, well, the market is efficient. And for the most part, he did mention that it was efficient to a certain point. It's just, and it was the most efficient thing we have, but it's just not correct. And exactly. I do believe that, by the way. The efficient market hypothesis states that at any given time, the current market is the most efficient thing we do have, but it doesn't say it's correct. And that is why you cannot just true Kelly stake and expect to never go bust in sports betting.
Exactly. So like, I actually, I barely ever do this with Circles Off. Obviously that interview was a little bit more, I don't even know how to term this, but like it was definitely at an intellectual level up here. Like obviously Barry Horse is a very smart person, right? And in conducting that interview, I went and I listened back to it afterwards. Is like there anything that I missed or whatever. But that particular part, he was basically saying, that the closing line is wrong, which he's right about. But it doesn't mean that it's useless or not predictive in any way, right? And you can take that however you want to take that. In terms of doing interviews, though, like I don't have an agenda when I go into an interview. I'm speaking for myself and not Johnny, but I started.
Well, do I have agendas?
I'm just saying I have no clue. I don't
Johnny
want.
says to us before he comes in here.
I'm gonna fucking flame this guy. Like fuck.
Put this guy on blast.
Yeah, this guy. Anyways, I don't have an agenda right now. I try to just ask questions that I think people are gonna want to hear about. Like, I don't like asking stuff that people already know. To put like lobbing softballs up on a platter. I have a very specific style. When it comes to pushing back on someone, you can do that. But like we're having guests on because we want to hear their perspective. And there's times where definitely we'll push back. The Fezzik interview was an example of you pushing back on Fezzik, right? I've had disagreements with people on this show, including Matthew Trenhale from Pinnacle, when we talked to him about public betting percentages and stuff like that. If it's worth pushing back on, I will. But like, I don't want it to be this counterintuitive, like state of argument perpetually with guests. That's not good for anyone, really.
No, definitely not. But by the way, what we mean when we say that the closing line is not correct is basically, let's say you go flip a coin 1,000 times, or sorry, 1,000 is not even enough, but 1 bazillion times.
Infinite times, yeah.
Infinite amount of times. It should net out 50-50. If you play the same football game a bazillion times, then the home team is not going to win by 3. That's not going to happen. Like, that's not going to be the most likely outcome. It will probably be something else because that is not the actual fixed odds for it. It's just what we think it is.
Yep.
So because of that, we don't really know our edge, and you have to attempt to quantify it. And that's why Barry Horse is saying the market's wrong and you could easily have a 10% edge, which you can. But to have that consistently is kind of where we disagree. But anyways, next question here. What is one skill you wish you had from your fellow co-hosts? Include Zach as well, please.
This isn't a skill, but I wish I had Zach's hair. For one.
That's a good one. Rob. Same here.
That's what I mean. That, believe it or not, we've only known each other for what, 3-4 years, right?
Probably, yeah. 5 years maybe.
I don't know, somewhere around there. 4. I'm horrible with time. Anyways, believe it or not, when I was his age, that's what my hair looked like. You would never know it. This is what sports betting at a high level will do to you.
Fair enough. Can we get people to comment here? If Rob were to shave his head completely bald,
here we go.
Would his hair grow back the exact same it is right now? I say no. I say it'd be a lot thinner.
I actually don't know enough to argue this, but there was someone, Mark, in the office who was very adamant that it would just be.
Oh, there's some dead follicles on there that he ain't getting back.
Seinfeld. Remember when Elaine's boyfriend shaves his head and doesn't go back?
Yeah, I mean,
it's true.
I don't know.
So okay, but let's answer it for real then, Rob.
Okay, so I don't know. I don't want any of your abilities.
Can't think of a single thing.
No. So here's the thing. For me, I'm very much to a fault, maybe very data driven in terms of like decision making. And oftentimes I would be better off just trusting my gut and acting on something quickly rather than processing all the information available to me. I think you do that really well. So at times I wish I was able to make decisions in the manner that you do and just like have the self-confidence to be able to do that rather than needing to process everything. Because if I think about things that have like gone by the wayside in my life, it's stuff where the opportunity was there for me to take advantage of it, but I took too long to act on that. So that's probably the characteristic from you. For Zach, I don't know Zach well enough. I don't. What am I gonna take from Zach?
If we're talking like not a mental skill and just like a physical like stuff that you could actually learn that we know, like obviously to take Zach's like ability to edit videos.
Of course, I would do that in a split second, but like we can learn that.
Yeah, but we don't. We don't
know.
learn.
I know now with all the AI. I mean, I don't even have to create. You get artificial intelligence YouTube thumbnails now.
Yeah.
I don't even know if Zach's position might be obsolete in 3 months. We're gonna have a computer behind the desk.
Zach does a great job on the podcast, but the podcast I know isn't like the most like you're not showcasing your full skill set by just editing a podcast. You could actually edit like real videos and stuff like that. So maybe if I had Zach's editing skills, I would have cut a sick hockey highlight tape of myself, sent it around. I've been playing D1 college puck back in the day, maybe, but who knows? From Rob, I would say if I had to take one skill from him, and I'll more relate it to betting and stuff just because it's easier. But I would say like just the analytical skills on a lot of the things. Rob's like super good with like a big data set, getting into the weeds, where for me, I just like, it's not, I wouldn't say it's for lack of trying. I just don't necessarily have the patience to like take a look at that and like build over a long period of time. As he mentioned, even I'd be more of like a go type thing, and I'd rather focus more on like execution and planning as opposed to like, let me like actually figure out with this big MLB data set, like what the actual projected stolen base impact is going to be this season.
Right. Yeah, I'm pretty good at that, like applying logic and working with data sets. One of the things that you mentioned there is probably what I would take from Zach. I can be very impatient at times, and he is very patient as a person. I can say that as someone who's been, he gets down to the studio here. He waits for me to make my coffee. I go up and make another coffee. We mess around for like half an hour before recording. He's got like a million things to produce. Like,
gets himself a water bottle, comes down. I say, "Hey, is that for me?" He throws it to me, grabs himself another water bottle.
So definitely his patience is something that I don't have. And I would like to, honestly. I would like if things didn't, bother me as much as they do.
I got some.
Let's go, Zach. Sorry, we forgot for Zach.
It's the male bonding moment right here.
For Rob, I think, especially considering what I'm doing right now, is the networking ability to kind of have connections in all the different sports, different aspects. It's not just people who are bettors. It's people who are insiders or in media or in marketing and stuff, and being able to connect with those people. That's something that I could use as a skill, especially as a producer, trying to continue to add. And for Johnny, I know we like joke about it, but I don't know if it's like a skill, but like a trait is self-confidence. Like, dude, to be able to just say like I could fucking build an F1 car like that, like I know we joke about it, but like to have that confidence, and actually he's not doing a bit, like he's actually certain that he can do that. There's things in my life that I've done that a lot of it came from just being like, all right, I'll put myself out there and do this, but some of it took like a lot of building up to get to, and I think that maybe I might have missed out on some earlier opportunities had I had that self-confidence to jump into it right away, had it come up like in that moment, rather than take the time to be like, oh, maybe, and then wait and then do it. So self-confidence, I think.
All right.
Fair enough.
So
you can't build the F1 car though. We're not going to get into this.
I can build it.
It's good to have self-confidence, but there's times where people are insane.
I could build the F1 car. All right. Anyways, But I could for sure build the F1 car. Like,
Oh, God.
I could build the F1 car. Like, this is not even a hard thing. Like, I could, if we really want to go, we can go more extreme.
Well, now
Stuff I can do.
The conversation is different now.
And by the way, it wasn't that I could build the F1 car. That wasn't even the question.
No,
it was
No,
can I build
know.
it in a year?
I didn't
Yeah.
want to. Yeah, I know.
But also remember, at that time, you wouldn't have had ChatGPT to help you, and now you do. So it's very different. Like it's becoming more possible nowadays.
We'll move into this one. Do you guys think that ChatGPT or any other AI technologies will have a major impact on betting in the next year? So I'll kick this one off. Definitely there's a lot of value that's going to come from AI. There's probably a lot of scary stuff that's going to come as well. Don't know exactly how I feel on it right now. At this exact time, I don't see any impact, especially not within the next year, for betting. I think the AI tools that are out right now, they're cool and they're neat, but a lot of times like they only work well if you're already like a specific domain expert in that thing, because you can actually kind of like
Bingo.
weed out inaccuracies. The way ChatGPT specifically is built, from what I understand it, and it's definitely not my area of expertise, is like, it kind of just takes what it predicts the next word to be and then builds the information and formulates a sentence and everything based on that. It's awesome for like, writing and storytelling and anything that might actually be considered fiction. But when it comes to nonfiction, actually like going through data, it's a lot of inaccuracies. And multiple people on Twitter have actually done threads on this and mentioned it. One person from the gambling community is Harry Crane.
Yeah.
So he's mentioned like, if you don't know the stuff with it, it's actually quite dangerous to think of that as fact. So as it's related to information, like I'll share, we did a
little test
beforehand. So we asked it, who is Rob Pizzola?
We asked ChatGPT who was Rob.
So let's read the response.
Yeah. I'll read it out loud here. So first paragraph, Rob Pizzola is a well-known sports analyst and professional sports bettor. He has gained recognition for his expertise in sports betting and predictive analytics and has been featured in various media outlets such as ESPN, the New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal.
As of right now, accurate.
All of that is accurate.
All of that is accurate. And to be honest, that's actually a very fair description of you to somebody who doesn't know you and may be looking at who is Rob Pizzola, right? And if you do know Rob or you listen to this podcast, you're like, yeah, that checks out. So now, next.
Okay. Pizzola has worked as a consultant for professional sports teams and has also developed predictive models for several online sports betting platforms.
So here's where we get off the rails a little.
This is actually true, but I don't know how this could possibly know that I have consulted for a professional sports team.
I just made it up.
Honestly, I think this is just like luck of the draw, correct?
But it also says you've developed models for...
Develop predictive models for several online sports betting platforms.
That's not true. It's not accurate.
All right. And then it gets into, here's where we go.
Okay. So right now at this point, if you're someone who doesn't know Rob, you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. He consults for teams and he built models for these things. And whether you deem that to be accurate or not, whatever, it checks out. It's within realm. All right. Now we get off the rails.
He is the founder and CEO of Sports Cheetah, a sports betting analytics firm that provides data-driven insights and predictive analysis to its clients.
So for those who don't know, Sports Cheetah is Preston Johnson's Twitter handle. Our good pal Preston, friend of the pod, has been on the podcast in an earlier episode. It is Sports Cheetah that's nothing. That is nothing.
I'm not the founder or the CEO of Sports Cheetah because Sports Cheetah is a person's alias. It's not a company. It's not a betting analytics firm that provides data-driven insights. I'll tell you that.
But given the first two things that Rob read, you would actually lead that to be accurate.
Yes.
If you didn't know. Yeah.
If you had no idea.
If you had no idea about Rob, and even people who listen to this podcast, I'm sure if you read that, you'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, he did this thing. All right, keep going.
In addition to his work in the sports industry, Pizzola is also known for his philanthropic efforts. He is the founder of the Bet on a Cure initiative, which raises funds for cancer research through sports betting. Here's what I will say. I'm not going to pat myself on the back. I'm not like this, philanthropic efforts.
That doesn't exist, by the way. That doesn't
The
exist.
Bet
He
on a
doesn't do
Cure
that.
initiative,
It
I
doesn't
don't do.
exist.
Like, that's not me. I have personally raised money for diabetes research before. For those who followed my content prior to founding the Hammer Betting Network, I used to do Sunday morning videos. And as part of that, I would ask for donations for diabetes research. I don't have a Bet on a Cure initiative. I don't raise money.
Nor
for
does that
cancer.
even exist.
It doesn't even exist.
There's Bet on a Cure casino night that happened one time.
Okay. And I would also say...
Wait. Johnny, is Bet on a Cure casino night the scene from The Office? Is that what that is?
Oh, it might be.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking
didn't
about.
watch
Okay.
the show.
Anyway, sorry. Continue.
No, it says Thursday, November 3rd, 2022.
Okay, never mind.
Which
Anyways.
honestly, ChatGPT wasn't even connected to this data, so it's made up.
Yeah.
It might be made up. It might be made
And
up.
listen, again, this is me patting myself on the... I have multiple... I sponsor some children at World Vision, which I've done for going on a decade now. I've seen them grow up, like to actually go to college. It's honestly pretty cool. I donate to sick kids. There's a part of me that's always going to give back to the community. This is not a ton of my net worth. It's a very small amount. But I would say I am definitely not known for my philanthropic efforts. Like, this entirety of this paragraph is wrong. So it starts very accurate and just goes off the rails. And if we're going to apply this to sports betting, I'm going to tell everyone out there, I've gone down the AI rabbit hole for the last month or so. Zach can attest to this. I've sent him like some messages in the middle of the night. He probably wakes up to, he's like, Rob's going nuts. Like, this is crazy. But AI can really help in some ways. I've never used Photoshop in my entire life. I do not have a creative artistic bone in my entire body. I'm the guy in Pictionary that I'm embarrassed to draw pictures, like basic pictures. I can't create anything. I can create a YouTube thumbnail for any video I do in about 10 seconds using AI. And I can literally just type what I want to be in that thumbnail. And it's done. Like, that is a huge time-saving service and a skill I will never acquire. Where we get into danger territory. You ask ChatGPT questions about betting, likely what you're going to get filtered to you. And I'm not saying I know exactly how ChatGPT is built, how it works, I'm not suggesting I know exactly how it works, but I've tried this a lot. And what you're going to get filtered is stuff that is often horseshit. And the only way you know it's horseshit is, as Johnny said, if you are a domain expert. Because sometimes I can ask ChatGPT a question about, like, can I win betting with reverse line movement? And it's going to pull up a bunch of stuff about reverse line movement.
What the fuck are you pulling up, bro?
Yeah, Zach, what is this on the screen?
This is what AI created as well. Like, this is what I'm saying.
Oh.
This is the Pope in GQ wearing a puffer jacket.
I was like, what the? I'm like, I was wondering where this was going. I'm like, what is Zach talking
What is
about?
he talking about? Sorry,
But it's crazy. Like the Donald Trump running away from the feds that got posted like a couple weeks ago. Like, it's a fake picture. It looked very real. Like, there's dangers to this type of technology. And in the sports betting space, holy geez, is some of this stuff. Did I say what I use? Horseshit?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. A lot of it is horseshit. And it's scary because I use this for other stuff as well. If I wanted to, bad example, I know how to change a tire on a car, but if I didn't and I typed to ChatGPT, how do I change a tire on the car or whatever, it's probably going to scour the internet and put together something based off of all the higher ranking search results and whatever. In the sports betting space, the higher ranking search results are mostly just created for SEO purposes. And it's a very weird industry because this was one of the questions that came in. Like, what percentage of bettors do you think win? I think less than 2% of bettors win over time. Might be even less than that. But you have so many people working in the space who are quote unquote experts in the space, producing content in the space that don't win. And I don't, like, again, I've said this before. I don't care if people don't win as long as they're transparent about it. But all this content that's being produced, page 1 of Google, page 2 of Google, look at the biggest sports betting channels on YouTube. I get like the professor's picks, like filtered to my YouTube stream now. This guy that's like a university professor, like it's all crap. And this is likely what the AI technology is being built on. So it reminds me of early Wikipedia. If that's, people remember that. Anyone could just go on Wikipedia and type whatever they wanted, and people were like I was citing it in my like university papers and stuff like that, and profs are like, no, you can't cite Wikipedia. And I was like, why not? It's an internet source. And they're like, no.
Remember you couldn't cite Wikipedia?
Couldn't cite Wikipedia.
Holy, you had to put like 7 citations in and couldn't use Wikipedia back in the day.
Horrible. But this is the danger of AI.
As of right now, I'd say this. If you ask it, hey, how do I beat the sports betting market? Yeah, that's not going to work. Also, if you ask it, hey, how do I make money options trading or something like that I also don't know, you're not going to get good advice. If you say, hey, write me a poem that's this, it's probably going to be pretty good. And there you go. That's where it's at right now. I'm not saying it's not going to get there. It, almost certainly will get there. But as of right now, yeah, be careful about doing things like that and then thinking that it's going to make an impact. It would probably be the equivalent of reading the first article on Google about how to win $1 million betting sports.
But it's scary.
Which is not going to
see. The thing is, like, me and you can ask a question to ChatGPT, and I don't mean this to come across as
if you ask
arrogant.
it, hey, how do I change my tire on my car? Also, you don't know if that's right or wrong.
I agree with you.
So that's also not like ChatGPT can't be used for informational stuff. Use YouTube. You know why? Because you can actually then look and see that person has credibility. And then you can trust that person based on the channel, based on the comments, based on the subscribers, the ratings, reviews.
That's still a slippery slope, man.
But it's not, because you can actually see. Now, again, yes, it could be fake ratings, fake reviews, but you can go on and just look at that and be like, oh, this seems like, based on my human brain, this looks accurate. It checks. It passes the test.
Well, it's dependent on
when
what
you
you're
go
doing.
when you go to ChatGPT. If you just type anything, there is nothing you can reference that says what part of that is accurate. And essentially, my argument, kind of the whole thing, is if it's 75% accurate and 25% inaccurate, but you have no way as a human to know which is which, then that is essentially worth 0. It's not worth 75%. It's worth 0. You can never use it. So it's going to get there, and I think the actual company itself doesn't expect that it's to be used like this currently in its current form, but eventually it will be.
The only thing I'll push back on it, we did that episode where we watched the guy break down his basketball live betting strategy. That's a clear example. Go read the comments on that page. Like, people are enamored with this. They think this is like a gold mine that they just hit. That guy has tons of subscribers. Like, this is what I'm talking about.
Fair enough. You can't trust anything.
You can't really trust anything. And I mean, that's obviously, like, we broke that down. We'll put the link in the description below as a horrible strategy. Now, I don't mean to shit on AI altogether. I think this is, again, I think there's lots of applications. There's a guy on Twitter that goes by Waco's Wagers. I found out about him through Andrew Mack, Ginge Face Killer. But he's building out a model using, I don't know if it's ChatGPT, but like some sort of AI technology. And he's testing it and it's coming with some weird results.
You got to give it all the inputs.
Of course.
Like, it's not really that beneficial.
Agreed. I think what people think is very different from the reality of the situation. Like, some people think that they're just going to ask ChatGPT to find them winning bets tonight, and ChatGPT is going to do that, and they ain't going to do that.
No, absolutely not.
It's going to be a problem.
Even to your point and Johnny's point of saying you can review these things, on that video where we reviewed the guy talking about how he has that surefire winning strategy in the NBA, we talked about how it was wrong. Someone commented on our video that we made about his video saying we were wrong. Like, you know what I mean?
Maybe we are.
We did the Simon Hunter Exposed episode.
Yeah.
And some of the comments in there are like, you guys are nuts. Simon Hunter, I won lots of money tailing Simon Hunter's picks this year. It's like, you missed the point of the entire video. Completely missed it. And there was a bunch of comments like that. Now, they all got downvoted, I noticed. They're all at the bottom of the thing. So obviously our following is taking over. But this is we're going to, if it was a battle of me and Johnny against the masses, we're going to lose, because the vast majority of people have no clue and they think that they have a clue. And I was in that boat. I lived this personally. I grew up through this where I was a pure rec bettor, but I thought because I was like, I understood math and I watched the games, that I was an expert in sports betting. And this is even like losing money. I'm still convincing myself that I'm an expert. Like this, I can't explain how the human mind works, but I have people like messaging me on Twitter who are actually experts, and I'm dismissing their advice 10 years ago, telling them like, no, like this is the way. His name eludes me. Who did we have on with Jeff Benson?
JJ Gruden.
JJ Gruden. I was JJ Gruden. If we did that interview 10 years ago, this is why I don't want to completely trash the guy or whatever. He has his beliefs. It's hard to change that mentality. I was him at some point in life. And the majority of people are JJ Gruden. So like this is where the AI stuff, when you're building answers off of stuff that is wrong, it just perpetuates this further and further. Like, I don't know how the sports industry ever gets out of this. I honestly don't know how, because this is the stuff that wins. Like the public bet percentages, reverse line movement, all the fake news garbage is the stuff that wins. Anyways, this has been a long answer for this. This guy just asked if we could win on sports betting this year. I mean,
with AI.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very bullish on AI. It's scary for sure, seeing some of the stuff that can happen. I'm learning more and more about it, but do I think you can just go type in a chat like find me winners for the National Basketball Association tonight? No. I don't think that's happening within a year.
Do you think the current NFL product is better than it was 5 years ago?
It's hard to say, because I have to remember back to what 5+ years ago was. Like, what has been the evolution in the NFL product since then?
5 years wasn't that long ago.
It's really not. Like, I think this question, like, what stems from it, like, at the heart of this question, might have a lot to do with, like, the officiating of the sport. Frankly, NFL officiating's always been... It's not any worse now, in my opinion, at least.
I gotta actually pull up what was... So 5 years ago,
we still had Red Zone as the way we were watching sports. The difference for us in Ontario was 5 years ago I had DFS to play in Ontario. I don't have that anymore, so that's a little bit. But like now I've just transitioned my DFS action to player props action, and it's kind of the same thing. So I don't know. I don't think it.
Like, think about this. 5 years ago was Mahomes' first season.
Yeah,
when he won the MVP. That was 2018. I mean, maybe that's 4.5 years ago. So five years ago was the year that Mahomes sat on the bench, and then essentially it was his first season. So from there, if you look at the actual like NFL product, fandom, how it's expanded, like I don't necessarily think it was massive in terms of like any of the production quality or fandom. I think mainly the big thing is like gambling has just expanded licensed.
Right.
And now we get like a bunch of advertising on there. But what are that many more people betting on NFL now than 5 years ago, you think?
I think probably, well, it's hard to say. I would say yes, because there is a subsection of people that has been reached that was not betting before, because they wouldn't bet into gray market, black market, anything like that, right? But ultimately, like, would you not say that you just define the answer of this question using TV ratings for NFL?
Well, I don't know if TV ratings are that good, because like the sport fandom, the sport fandom I think has actually gone up. But TV ratings.
The question is like the current NFL. How do we define the current NFL product?
So here's some things I would
the value of the NFL has certainly gone up over the last 5 years.
That's what I'm saying.
But here's some things I would say like probably have changed in the last 5 years. I can't remember some of the specifics, but adding some of the Thursday night games, Christmas games,
the old London games.
Yeah, the international games. So some of those are different. Adding Christmas games 100% improves the product to the NFL overall and experience of a fan.
I mean, if this is like,
By the way, it's not actually. They didn't actually add Christmas games.
No, it just happened to fall.
They just had Saturday games that now happen to fall on the Christmas weekend.
Like, if this is the NFL increasing in popularity, then the answer is yes. I think that's clear cut. Yes. From my own personal perspective, okay, I sit here, I complain. Oh yeah, Jerome Boger did this, cost me this, whatever.
He's out of the league.
You know, he's gone now. Jerome's retired. I no longer have to cross off that game off my list at the beginning of the week. But I watch as much football as ever. Like, I basically tell my wife, it's like, Diana, Thursday night, figure out what you're going to do with your friends. She's like, isn't it like Eagles Texans? The spread's 13.5. Like, yeah, I don't give a shit. We're going to find some bets on the game and we're going to watch it. Like, do you really have to watch it? Yeah, I do. So, like, for me, I love the NFL. Like, I'm doing a video every day on Forward Progress, just doing mock drafts for teams because I'm so passionate about the NFL. So for me, I think the product is as good as it's ever been. I mean, it's you could complain it's too many commercials. There's this, whatever. We're all watching. We're all really highly invested in it. Now, a lot of it is because of betting, for sure. But I think that that's part of what we have to consider the NFL product. Like, the NFL's embraced this. It's part of the entirety of the ecosystem. Tough question to answer.
Well, relatively, I think the NHL product's gone down. Board advertisements.
Well, that's like
review. Adding the review takes forever now with the review.
I guess, I mean, there's certain, like, 5 years ago, I don't know. There's not enough changes. Like, obviously, there's things on a yearly basis that'll drive me nuts in the NFL. Like, remember when they added that you could review the pass interference penalty?
For 1 year.
But they never fucking overturn these things. Like, it could literally be assaulting a person on the field, and they're just going to stick with the ref's call. Like, that to me that's a really shitty thing in the product. Like, why even allow this to happen? Extreme frustration. They got rid of it. Do I think there's ways they can make it better? Sure. I don't know. I think it's fucking solid, though, man. I love the
Great
NFL.
sport. Great sport. The best to bet on.
Best league.
So, Rob, what are your thoughts on betting exchanges for major markets with high liquidity, particularly those that have low house fee, 1% to 2% hold?
Okay, loaded question. Get your thoughts, too. I love the idea of exchanges. In theory, we preach this all the time. It's why we promote Pinnacle as one of the sports books that you definitely should have in your portfolio if you're in Ontario. Lower VIG option. Same thing with exchanges, right? Cut out VIG. You often will find the best price. Add an exchange. Issue I see with current betting exchanges is just major markets. I mean, this is the question is, what are your thoughts on betting exchanges for major markets with high liquidity? Fine. I like that idea. It's great. But you're never going to get the average bettor that's going to go over to a betting exchange just to bet a bunch of major markets. Like, they can't same game parlay. They can't do this. They can't do that. It's not the same experience as elsewhere. So the idea of a betting exchange is great for pro bettors, where it's like, okay, we can get down. I mean, assuming that there actually is high liquidity on the exchange, the idea and principle is great for someone who's getting down a lot. It's horrible for a casual.
It's fair. I'll say that. It's very fair. The fact that you don't get limited and all this stuff, like, it's very, very fair. And I do think everyone needs to have the exchange outs if you're in a regulated state that has that. Do I think that's going to become the number one book in America? Definitely not. But, like, the way betting works nowadays is no one uses just one book anyways. It would be quite dumb to just use one book. You should probably use, if you're serious about betting, 5+. If you're even just a casual guy or girl who wants to bet a couple bucks, you should probably still have money in 3. If you're the serious bettor who is betting at 5, then yeah, I would consider putting an exchange in one. But at the end of the day, there has to be, like, if one takes off and then becomes like massive and then starts getting prop seeded and like you can do parlays and you can do all this stuff, then boy, that would be phenomenal. But I think we're a ways away from that, and I hope we get there. But I'm not super bullish on like an exchange becoming the number one book in America or Canada. I think they can survive for a bit, but and potentially one takes over. But I'm not super bullish on it becoming like the number one.
Not unless they can offer the same like markets as all of the other recreational books in the space. Like in principle, right? It could be great, but it's all in principle. It's all theoretical. Like find someone who's going to seed these exchanges with all these prop markets where they can get picked off at any time. Like I love the idea. I just don't think that it's executable. I hope someone proves me wrong. Again, I love the model.
Yeah, and if you're in New Jersey, check out Profit Exchange. It's a good UI, nice sports book. As Rob mentioned, like they don't have all the markets; they only have the major stuff. But if you're betting MLB, check it out. See if it's for you.
And of course, as always, you can head over to betstamp.app/circlesoff. If you do want to sign up through any sports books, we're not pushing you to do it. But if you want to support the show, sign up through two sports books through betstamp.app/circlesoff. The link is in the description below.
Yeah, got the links to Profit Exchange up there. If you're in Colorado, there's the SBK Exchange, and might have a few more launching soon over the next little while, which we're pretty fired up about.
If you ever needed a little push to go and sign up for new sportsbooks or have more than one, this morning when we were doing the Edgework show, Calgary Flames playing tonight against Arizona or Chicago, excuse me. And Calgary on majority of books was minus 400. One book was sitting at minus 550. Ooh. If you're sitting there with only minus 550, I mean,
you're paying a lot more for that loss, yeah. Or you're not winning as much on the win. You something that Zach does. It shouldn't drive me crazy as a Canadian because Canadians do say the word this way. But when I first started doing a lot of media hits, U.S. radio, some TV stuff in the U.S., I had to get a speech coach because you can probably still tell that I'm Canadian even if you didn't know from watching. But the biggest thing that I used to get feedback on was against the spread.
Did I say that?
That's how you naturally say it because that's how Canadians say it.
Say?
You say against as well because that's how you're brought up to say it. But Americans say against. And I now always say against because I've been coached to say it that way. Anytime I hear against, I don't know why, it triggers me. I got like the American speech in me now.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, Americans also say, ah.
I mean, we say a.
What was that?
Sound like a duck more than anything.
Pardon?
Say,
All right. Last question for today's episode. So last question for today's, and I can assure you, if your question wasn't asked, likely it was not skipped. Likely what happened is it's going to be answered in next week's part 2 episode. So if you're still looking forward, we have a ton more questions. We are going to answer, just how many pro gamblers are there in the United States? That's about to get answered in next week's episode.
sure we're going to be extremely accurate with our projection as well.
Yeah, and you could ask ChatGPT on that one.
We're going to be bang on with our projection there.
We've got some other bangers here.
We also, by the way, I'm just going to be authentic and real with the audience here. Some of these questions were absolute trash this week, which we just had to cut out. So I don't want to give false expectations, but if you if you
ask a real one,
ask a real question, we're going to get to it. Like if you're asking a really stupid question to get a rise out of us, we're probably going to skip it. So, I mean, you can waste your breath in further weeks. That's fine. But
because it's a slippery slope. You answer one of those questions,
man, then they start rolling in like nuts, and we can't go down that path.
So we've got what percentage of bettors win long term. We're going to talk about signals to help figure out when you've kind of lost your edge, signals to figure out when a market is being manipulated. We are going to talk about a very interesting one. What is the public side tax? The old
I saw that question, and I'll speak more to it next week as well. Yeah.
So ton of questions coming last week, but to close it off for today, what we have is an absolute doozy, which is this.
Absolute doozy. Okay.
If you were in PlusEV Analytics' shoes, how would you have handled the Caesars situation?
Okay, so there's going to be a segment of people that are watching or listening that don't know what this is. So you want to give like a little quick
Go ahead.
briefer? Okay. We've talked about this on Circles Off before, but for people that don't know, long story short, I'm not going to get into a 5-minute diatribe here, but essentially PlusEV Analytics, who has sat in Johnny's seat before for a Q&A episode at one point on Circles Off, is suing Caesar Sportsbook for essentially bets that he feels were unfairly ruled on. And we're in the province of Ontario. He went to iGaming Ontario, the regulatory body, to complain. iGaming Ontario ruled in favor of Caesars. I think that this is absolutely a moronic ruling. Don't even get me started. But he has gone and now taken Caesars to court. I think the total amount is like $6,000. Do you remember it offhand?
I don't, but yeah.
It's what some people would consider an amount that they wouldn't sue for. Let's put it that way, that it's more than a hassle. So
it's definitely a matter of principle for him.
It is. So the question is, what would I have done if I were in PlusEV's shoes? I would have done nothing. I would have sat and I would have stewed, because I have a different, like, I get the matter of principle. I honestly...
But wait, the scenario we didn't even explain is he bet a bunch of futures bets to start the NFL season. They must play 18 games for action. If they don't play 18 games, there's no action. Obviously, Buffalo, Cincinnati voided that ticket, or should have voided that ticket, given that that game was no action. Meaning anything for a future on Buffalo or Cincinnati would have been absolutely no action, stated right there in the ticket. What they did, which I think really pissed our buddy off here, is he had exactly 13 wins and exactly 12 wins. They graded one of them as a push, which technically had a good chance of winning. And then the other one they graded as a loss.
Yep.
And really that, as per the rules, should have been a push. And because of that, what happens is you can kind of infer that what the sportsbook did in this situation is anyone that basically would have won their bet or had a chance to win had their bet voided. And then anyone who had, Bengals exactly perfect season or 4 wins was still slapped with a loss, meaning they just took a massive profit on the Bills and Bengals futures tickets.
I'm honestly still in awe that iGaming ruled in favor of the sport.
But did they even really understand the scenario?
That's what
I want to know.
This is the biggest frustration, right? The regulators are supposed to be acting like keeping sportsbooks in line, having the best interest of the bettors at heart. And maybe they do, and they just don't understand the situation all that well, but it's mind-boggling. And listen, I'm going to defend PlusEV. I think what he's doing is very noble. There's people out there that are like, oh, PlusEV, what a peasant. Like, he's barely betting any money on this stuff. Okay, first and foremost, the guy's spreading all the money around across all the regulated books. It's not like this is every single future that he played. Played a bunch of money on futures. I know the guy personally. Like, we can stop with, he's betting like nickels and dimes on stuff. Like, he's got decent-sized bets. Whatever. Besides the point. The matter of principle, I get it. I would have blew a gasket if this happened to me. Would I have taken Caesars to court? In all likelihood, no. Would I have put them on notice on Twitter and whatever other means I have of social media? Absolutely. But for me, what I would stand to get out of it is just not worth the amount of time I'd have to invest in fighting a legal battle for this. It's a different story for me if it's like $60K instead of $6.
Well, 60, I think a lot of people would have pursued some additional action.
But I'm not PlusEV Analytics. It's important to know that. He's allowed to make his own decisions and do whatever he wants to do. And frankly, if it is a matter, honestly, I know PlusEV. I know where he has a golfing membership. I know where he lives. Frankly, I know what he makes at his personal day job. Guy's doing more than fine. It ain't a matter of the money, okay? So for him to do that as a matter of principle, I think, honestly, it's noble. I really do. And maybe it gets nowhere, but I respect the hell out of the guy for that. I honestly do. Because he's not doing it, he's not doing it to grow his social following or to be like the guy that's doing it. He's doing it for a larger cause.
Yeah, also, anyone who actually understands the situation should agree that he was wronged in this scenario. And he was treated unfairly. And the regulators, obviously, who are designed to protect that, were not able to protect him. But in this scenario, if you're going to ask me what would I have done, I don't know. I don't know what I would have done. I can't tell unless I was actually faced with this situation. If I did, like, I would be very upset if that happened to me.
What do you value the most in your life right now? Like, I'll tell you, for me.
What is it, the time?
Time.
Yeah,
I do not have enough time to do everything that I want to do. Running the hammer is a lot of work. Recording content's a lot of work. But on top of that, I want to be able to live I want to golf in the summer, right? Now, I'm going to simulators or whatever. I have stuff I want to do. I want to even play video games in my spare time. And the show comes out. I want to time. So for this is just like a time suck. It's
a principle. It's a principled matter.
But again, to bring it back, the question is you. How would you handle it? For me, I get the principle. I'd love to fight the war for other people. I've done that many times before.
People go after their ex-wives and ex-husbands
sure.
all the time just out of principle. I don't know. I hope it doesn't. I don't know. I don't know what I would do. I probably more in the same boat as you, but at the same time, man, is that frustrating to have to deal with.
I have a question for you guys because you brought it up. We're not really sure. I feel like maybe some other people might have a similar question, but this is pure speculation on both your behalfs, what the answers that you'll give here, because there's no way to truly know. But in the same sense that Gary Bettman operates for the NHL and Roger Goodell operates for the NFL, where they are essentially representing the owners, they act on behalf of the owners. Do you feel like there could be an element of the iGaming, and that's more specific to here, but
it could be any regulatory body across any U.S. state.
Do you think that they could be potentially operating in that capacity for the sports books themselves in those states and in the provinces?
It's possible. This is where you get into a slippery slope, because the sports books are providing tax revenue in the states and provinces that they're operating in. So it's it's possible. I don't want to make that accusation. I actually don't think that that's what's happening here. I honestly don't think that that's what's happening here. I think you get,
Do you think he'll win his case?
I think he'll win his case. Right. And if he doesn't, it's honestly the saddest. If he does not, this is clear.
He doesn't win this case.
Honestly, it's so upset. He is so clearly in the right. By the terms and conditions.
Yeah, he's not trying to pull a fast one, take advantage of a thing. That's not what this is.
If he does not win that case, it's one of the saddest things I've seen in sports betting, because it was him, but it could have easily been somebody else, where that $6,000 matters a whole lot to them, and or just whatever. And I don't want to.
Also, 6,000. We're making it off to seem like it's nothing.
6, apologies if it comes across that way.
No, it's absolutely 6,000 is a ton of money, and to be honest, people have pursued stuff for much less than 6,000, and for most people, for the majority of people betting, a difference of a $6,000 swing, which you should have been paid, is likely the difference between a winning season and a losing season. So, a matter of principle, 6,000 is not a lot, not a little. That's very frustrating.
It's also just
We're not talking about $100 here, $50.
It's a really shitty thing for the sportsbook to do, because someone there has to recognize that they're definitely in the wrong. I don't know the situation, but do you think that and we're going down a slippery slope here, but someone on that trading team or customer support, whatever, has to realize that they're wrong to let it get this far. The reputational damage that has been caused to Caesars, in my opinion, just from PlusEV's social tweeting about it and the amount of people in the space picking that up, is way more than $6,000. My opinion. You can feel free to disagree. Why would they ever let it even go that far? I don't know why they would even let it go that far.
Yeah.
In most cases, if this was, I'm surprised that somebody at least didn't reach out to him. As far as I know, this hasn't happened, to say, you know what? We think we're in the right. You think you're in the right. We'll do $3,000. You sign an NDA. You don't rip us apart. I don't think PlusEV would have taken that. But the fact that didn't even happen, and it's just no, this is the ruling.
They didn't even credit him a bet credit.
It's anyways.
All right, guys. Last personal question.
Wait, let's go to next week.
No. This one's time sensitive here.
Okay.
People are listening to this. It's the first day of the Masters. It's Easter weekend. You guys are in different life situations here. I think people can take away something for this from themselves. You're going into Easter weekend. You're going to have dinners, lunches with your families. But you got to balance the Masters here. The Masters is on TV. I know it's important to both of you as it is to myself. Rob, we'll start with you. You got family functions going on, but you have to deal with the Masters. How do you balance being a family man, being a good guy, being around, but also enjoying the greatest golf tournament of the year?
So, secretly, I'm hoping that we have a Monday finish this year. There's bad, inclement weather expected on the weekend. So, my family, my personal family, my father, my mother, my brother, we love golf.
Your personal family as opposed to what?
It's my in-laws. So so my family, they love golf. Now, when you're married, my mother wants to do Easter Sunday one year. My mother-in-law the next year says, we get Easter Sunday. You got to deal with that stuff. So this year, Easter Sunday's at my in-laws. If that's the final round, it's going to be me getting up from the table a lot. I'm hoping my Diana's uncle is there, who's also a huge golf fan, and he'll get away from, we can sit in front of the TV, but it's tough. If it's my family,
Rob Pizzola Sr.'s got the game on the TV. No doubt.
If Easter Sunday, it's always like early lunch. Masters is going to end like around 6, 7 o'clock,
yeah.
right? So it's like, okay, let's get the lunch out of the way so that once the coverage starts at 3 or whatever, like we're all there and watching. And that's, typical.
It's actually such a good tournament.
It's such a good honestly, tournament. The sound of like Jim Nance's voice with like the harp in the background,
whispering.
It's so soothing. Like I'll just be like half asleep on the couch and there's like an amazing shot and you wake up and you watch and you're like, oh, it's so good. You pass out for like another 15 minutes.
Johnny just went there. He was on
Give
the
a Masters
couch.
pick. Give a Masters pick.
I don't want to give like one of the favorites or anything like
All
that.
right, give a non-favorite.
I'm going to be rooting. I have my, for people who don't believe me, these are locked in on my private Betstamp account, which I'll quickly flash to the screen here. Look at these numbers. How proud of you? How proud of me? Corey Connors 75-1 to win the tournament.
Well, let me pull up the Betstamp odds comparison tool. By the way, listen, the golf product is not the best. I'm not going to lie to you and say it's the best out there because it's not really a good golf product. It's very hard to do. But futures it's very useful. I'm going to pull it open right now. Maybe Zach can even share it on the screen. Yeah, go to the Betstamp Golf Futures tool. This thing is great if you want to pick your Masters bets. Click it there. Go winner, tournament winner.
All right. So
it doesn't have every single sports book, but it's more than enough to get a nice comparison and then actually give you a true odds price there. As you'll see, by the way, on the left, Pinnacle Sports, official sponsor circlesoff, has the best price on a lot of players. Like if you're betting at, for example, Barstool right now, plus 650 versus plus 756 for Rory McIlroy, it's a pretty big difference.
it also like the Scheffler number makes a pretty large difference, especially people don't realize that, right? Like plus 650 to plus 756 in terms of implied probability, that's a significant percentage.
Amount. Yeah, plus 5,800 to plus 5,900 is not a big deal, but we're still in a good range here.
So listen,
who do you want? Scroll down, Zach. I gotta give an official pick.
Who do I want as an official pick right now? This is tough. Okay, so right now I do have Brooks Koepka.
Did I scroll past?
Yeah, he's right there. He's right there. You had a cursor on him.
Now I don't think he's gonna win, but I fired off
7,500.
75 to 100.
I want to see the book. We don't have to say it on
So is that plus
40? Yeah, you know what the book is.
Plus 4,572 right now.
I fired a Max Homa at plus 6,600.
It's plus 3,300 now.
Oh, these are all absolute verified wagers.
And I fired a Corey Connors at 75 to 1. Scroll up right there.
Oh, yeah.
Connors at 75 as well. Wow, some great prices, win
now,
or lose.
I'm going to give Masters is underway right now, so you're going to have to live bet this if you want anything. But I'm rooting home that Hideki Matsuyama 50-1 right there.
50-1
Hideki. I have a soft spot in my heart. So people who don't know, I seriously bet golf for a couple years. And then I got to the point where I'm like, I think I can win at golf, but I'm never going to be Rufus at golf. And that pains me to say that. I pride myself on like doing something the best. And he has a huge head start. Think he's better at modeling the sport than me. But that year, one of those years, we bet Hideki in like every tournament. And it was just like this running joke of the clown meme, right? Yeah. Like we run our model, we adjust for course fit, whatever. We bet on Hideki with him putting on the clown mask, or the hair at that point. So I have a soft spot in my heart. I actually think that's a good number, 50-1. So Hideki.
50-1. All right.
People are going to be listening to this. He's already 6 over in the first round.
Scroll up, Zach.
Okay.
For my official pick, I'm going to go with
nothing like official Masters picks.
Scroll down a little. You wouldn't even be able to tail this because this episode's coming out on Thursday.
That's what I'm saying. That's nothing like official Masters picks
that you can't even tail.
That the tournament is already underway.
Should I just clip this and drop it
for
like
my
Wednesday night?
Official Masters pick? Give me Tony Finau plus 3,000.
Tony,
give me Tony Finau plus 3,000.
All right.
And you got plus 5,000.
Hideki.
Finau never won a major, correct?
Correct.
I like it.
This might be it.
Remember when he broke his ankle and the
man? That's celebrating the hole-in-one, right?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he was celebrating the hole-in-one.
Yeah.
Anyways,
all right. This has been episode number 96. We are back next week to finish up this Q&A for episode 97. See y'all next week. Like, subscribe. Thank you all for viewing.